Welcome to the episode number 4 of Beyond Infinite podcast, starring your boy D Money and ItsGuestGaming, where we talk about everything on the way to infinite and beyond. Welcome to the podcast, guest. What's up? How we doing today?
Hello. I'm doing well. It's been a very productive day. This is probably the best content creation day I've personally had in 3 years. And I found out today, coincidentally, it's my 3-year anniversary of making videos ever on YouTube. My first video ever was exactly 3 years ago today, which was a fun little fact to look at when I was putting on my filters. I'm like, wait, but it says, oh, that's 2021. Got it. Reverse the filter. It was a perfect coincidence. But yeah, I'm very happy to be here because this has been an incredibly exciting week.
Yeah, happy anniversary. And this is our 4th anniversary of the podcast as well. So
True. This is true.
Yeah. So a very special day. And you're making even more content today.
Yeah.
You just made a lot of content. Now we're about to make some more as we have some very exciting topics to go over. We just got a new season in Marvel Snap that we're going to be talking about. And we also have some spicy, maybe drama or just like a new kind of announcement from Second Dinner about the game that we'll get into in just a little bit. But yeah, new season of the game here. And it came with a patch as well, which doesn't always happen, right?
This is true. It just... In the beginning of the year, it's going to be pretty consistent that way just because of how it lines up. But the second we have our first 5-weeker, which is where we're heading into relatively soon, yeah, it's going to throw off the cycle once again. But as of right now, the season starts and the patch hits almost at the same time, but they were delayed, obviously rolling this patch out for those who remember beginning of the week. We normally get them on Tuesdays, but Second Dinner was trying to implement something, and for some reason it just they were taking their time because it wasn't working, or it was broken, or it was delayed, or whatever it was. They wouldn't tell us all the specifics in the creator group, but what we do know is that we finally were able to start talking about the changes that were made to a couple of key component cards, and I'm going to let you lead the floor with Omega Red because it's a very interesting card change. Looking at now, he's basically turned into Baxter Building.
You stole my line. That's what I was gonna say.
Really?
Yes. He's Baxter Building on a stick now.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Yeah. So Omega Red got changed. Instead of having to win the location by 10 power or more to be able to give, I believe it was 4 power to the other locations.
Yeah.
Now he is. He's still the same stats at 4-5, but if you're winning that location by any amount, as long as you're winning it, then you give 3 power to the other locations. So it's pretty strong, actually. And of course, if you do Onslaught with it, it goes to 6, but probably unnecessary. But yeah, I don't know. That card... It's a pretty big rework in my opinion, and we've seen a lot of people on Twitter already posting like their new decks with Omega Red with these insane win rates and everything. Everyone's loving it. So yeah, Omega Red getting a whole new life. You love to see it.
It honestly surprised me a little bit. I wasn't expecting it to be as big of a deal when I was first looking at the change, and I'm theorizing of, okay, well, it's only a 4-5. It's kind of mediocre stats. Are the +3s worth it? Because we do have Ms. Marvel at a 4-4, giving +4s under a little bit more of a complicated condition, but you are getting more power. So I wasn't 100% certain if this was going to be as important of a change as it is. And now here we are a couple of days later, really playing out this change. And it is absolutely making a very strong impact in the meta. We're seeing people hit infinite now in the very first week. Some people for the very first time using Omega Red. And whoever thought that that would be the world that we'd be living in Marvel Snap, yet alone this week, that Omega Red is actually a meta relevant card because it's incredibly easy to go from 4-5 to 4-11 with one good card, just even Omega Red plus Blob. It's 20 power in the lane on 2 cards. That's really, really good. So I'm seeing a lot of people wanting to test further with Omega Red. I do agree with what the chat is talking about here. And once again, for those who want to see this recording live, we always record it live on D-Money's Twitch channel on Thursday nights. And then we publish it onto YouTube and all of the other platforms on Fridays. So come join us for the live recording on Thursday nights. But the chat's even talking about it that it might have an inflated win rate due to the beginning of the season. This might be a little bit of a leaning factor towards the current win rate, but it doesn't take away the fact that 411 has never really been so easy versus his prior effect. I've been sold a little bit more so on Omega Red and this new change, especially in some of the Zabu shells I've been testing. There's some really fun decks out there with him. I've been enjoying him. He's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you're paying 4 energy for the card when it's gonna be 3 because of Zabu every single time.
Normally.
Yeah, so it's basically like, yeah, exactly what Guest is saying. It's like another Miss Marvel in a sense. You could easily compare it to Miss Marvel, who does a similar kind of thing. It's just a little less strong, but it's an easier. Maybe it's a tougher condition. They're very close conditions to be met there, but yeah, the card is just strong, and of course with Zabu, Zabu is like the strongest card in the game in my opinion. And this is a card that gets enabled by that card, and mana reduction, mana cheat in card games is overpowered usually. So, yeah, the Omega Red is popping off. I do agree with the beginning of the season thing. I mean, I personally get a lot of bots at the beginning of the season, but I know then there's a lot of people that come into my chat and they're like, "You're so lucky you get bots. I don't get bots." I'm like, I don't know. So who knows?
You are so lucky.
Yeah, maybe people just don't know how to play. They're not prepared for the Omega Red. They just don't know how to play around it yet. Maybe we'll see a lot of rogues come up very soon or something like that. So maybe some echoes making an appearance, but echo doesn't really help too much because you can't just like slam it down the middle lane and then be okay because it's not Miss Marvel. You can play it anywhere.
Right.
So yeah, interesting to see how this keeps playing out, but it seems like a good card to me. And then we have Beast being changed as well to a 2/2. So you might think that is a buff because it's 1 less energy, but now the cards are only reduced. The cards that you bounce are only reduced for the next turn. So instead of being able to have that reduction for as long as you want, you have to play those cards next turn, or else they will lose their thing there. So what do you think about that, Guest?
At first, I thought it was a very detrimental attack onto bounce. I was really worried about how the mechanics are going to work for very specific cards that you look to bounce in a bounce deck, right? If you're looking to do those Hawkeye synergies and try to get out a second turn of it, if it's not going to be reduced on that second turn, now are you even contemplating a Hitmonkey combination because you can't get enough cards down or etc.? I was a little worried about it, and after trying Beast with Black Swan as a 2/3, where she temporarily was, and we'll talk about that in a bit, with Black Swan as a 3/5, with Beast as a 3/4, and then Beast as a 2/2, honestly, it's just us reprogramming ourselves. I originally was very worried that it was going to be a pretty strong hit, and it's a mental reprogramming. Like I know you're a very heavy bounce player, right? You've done very well with bounce in the past, and in his old effect at 2 cost, it was pretty strong. It was pretty strong. So they had to make him a 3, and everyone said bounce was dead. And now here we are going the other way around, saying bounce is dead. I really don't think so, though. Have you tried New Beast?
It's not dead. Yeah. Oh, it's not dead. Yes, let me tell you. That's like all I played yesterday, pretty much, and. Yeah, 2/2 Beast. It doesn't even matter if like you're gonna play the stuff the next turn anyway. Like you don't even care about that. Only going for the next turn, because you beast it, then you play the cards again, and you play Falcon and Black Swan on turn 5. So you do the Beast turn on turn 4, and then you play Falcon and Black Swan on turn 5 after playing all your stuff again, and then you get to play them all again on the last turn, and you probably throw priority to your opponent. Like it is totally fine. I'm okay with it. Yeah, it's Bounce feels pretty nice right now. Still trying to figure out like what the big cards are going to be in the deck. I don't know if I like the collector, or maybe I want to go into like a werewolf kind of style with it. I'm not sure what the best variation is just yet, but Bounce feels very much alive so far. And yeah, the beast being at a 2/2 actually does give you a lot of flexibility, regardless of if it's for the next turn or not. I don't think it really yeah, I don't think it really matters. I mean, of course, like there's going to be cards that are countering it. Like we said last week when we were theorizing these new cards, like Supergiant is a really good counter to this setup that Bounce is going to be doing. And so is Sandman, of course. But if your opponent's not doing that, or actually there is a play around for the Supergiant that somebody in my chat was mentioning. If they Supergiant you, then on that following turn, then you drop Hit Monkey.
Yeah.
And then Hit Monkey will get all the buffs for whatever you drop on the following turn, on turn 6. So it's actually pretty sick. Yeah, it doesn't even hurt you that much. Yeah.
I shameless self-promotion. I literally just put out a deck guide on an Invisible Woman monkey deck that works with the new Black Swan and the new Beast, and it is a stupid amount of fun with that exact same mindset of hiding the monkey and then playing all the other stuff, whether you have the reduction or not. So yes, Beast has just got to be reprogrammed in all of our heads. It's not as easy as it was, but because he's cheaper, it opens up different play lines. I enjoy New Beast. I'm not there in saying that he's definitely as good or better than he was previously. I do kind of agree with what Second Dinner said about it being a sideways change. It's because we're all just going through that transformation process right now. Unlike the pretty straightforward change that actually ended up being very impactful to another card, the third major change we had during this patch, which was Helicarrier, where it's still a 6/10, no big deal, but then now it's going to be filling your hand with cards. And I really like this. It's so silly, but considering how heavy Collector got hit by the Loki nerf, I really enjoy the new Helicarrier in a Loki deck. I hate to say it. Like I was doing this like discard Loki hybrid dino combination thing, and we were climbing. Like it's a very fun mechanic, especially when you add in something like Gambit. So you always have something. It's not just only relying on the APOC synergy. We ran no APOC. We just ran swarms and helicarriers, and we always had cards in our hand to discard. So there was a lot of fun things we can do with that as a ramp mechanic towards the very end of the game. I really enjoy the new Helicarrier, and I never thought I'd ever say that sentence this week either. It's a week of surprises, you know. First Omega Red, and now Helicarrier. Have you tried anything at all?
Have you tried anything?
With this?
Not with Helicarrier yet. But I do want to try that today. I'm very excited to try out that card. Yeah, it seems really nice with the collector, of course. I still am trying my best not to play Loki because I think he's still toxic. But
I'll send you a deck.
With Quinjet,
I'll send you a deck to try. I think you'll like it.
Okay. Yeah, with Quinjet and Collector just by themselves, like I think this new change to Helicarrier is actually pretty solid. And it is going to be wacky. You're going to get a bunch of random stuff in your hand, but it's going to be fun. Should be decent. Very excited for that. Yeah, I was not expecting that either. All these changes were pretty much very unexpected. I'm even in the creator Discord, and like I get to see the changes ahead of time. And I never really look. I don't really look that much. So like when I saw these come up, like when I just loaded up the game before yesterday, I was very surprised at every single change I saw, pretty much.
Yeah.
But like pleasantly surprised. Like I'm glad that these cards that are underplayed. Always love to see cards that are underplayed get some kind of rework and make them playable. Yeah.
And it's not even they're not even major changes. They're just little time here, little one number here, little number. They're little tiny mechanic changes, but they make a huge difference in regards to how we currently are playing the game, right? So we have to go through a reprogramming with bounce, yes. But there are other archetypes that now reopen up, and then we get reintroduced to new cards and then look at further synergies. Like I've been theory crafting an idea of like a super 8 deck and a super big tall deck, thinking about how many different ways can I get just big, beefy 4-drops all into one deck, because now we've got this weird combination of a double synergy with Crossbones and Omega Red, because they want to win lanes and you really can win that lane, and then you super secure that lane. And I did not expect that this week. I wanted to focus primarily on the new cards, but then these patches came on down and it really revitalized how I was looking at certain decks as well. So look, Second Dinner's got a really solid balance team. Even if we don't necessarily understand it, one of the most confident things that we learned between the patch and some of the new cards this past week in particular is that it reads one way, but the second you play it, then you'll truly understand why they're actually doing what they're doing. The Omega Red change is the best example, in my opinion, because I never thought that it would be as impactful as it was. But it really is quite strong. I know we didn't see those changes coming. We normally do. We normally have some kind of a heads up in the creator group in that sense, or we'll talk about it even. Nobody was talking about Omega Red. Nobody was talking about Helicarrier. I think one person was talking about Beast, potentially, if I remember. I think it was Braude, actually, if I remember correctly, who said something along the lines of, Beast nerf incoming or something like that. And then it came true. I think it was within the same week. But one of the things I want to talk about that wasn't in the patch that does heavily affect the patch because it comes from the patch is the fact that Marvel Snap's future information is very limited now. And this was a very big deal to a lot of players. What I mean by that, for those who are not aware, the sites like Snap.fan and Marvel Snap Zone, they are very well known for, getting information out of the game, data mining, and giving it to the community, and allowing us to have certain access to certain resources so we can start planning what we're doing with our very valuable in-game resources. Are we saving up for a card that might come out in the future, or a spotlight cache, or a bundle, or whatever? And a lot of that information has been taken away from us now. They've limited heavily a bunch of that information away. What do you think about Marvel Snap pulling back some of the information that we're no longer allowed to necessarily get ahead of time, the way that we used to get it, like bundles in particular, and sometimes the spotlight caches as well?
Wait, so no more spotlight cache data mines either? Like all data mines, or?
So it's very hidden. I know SnapFan did get some information out, but originally it was completely redone on the inside, and we can see cosmetics, we can see dates. Those are fine. New cards, partially, we can still see, but bundles, they're gone. You will not know what's coming to the game until it drops into the game, in that sense, when it comes to resources.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, I like surprises, so like it's kind of cool in that regard. But on the other hand, like especially for the spotlight, with like variants coming out, like I do want to know, like, if I want to save my keys, and I think that is like kind of very important for players that are not collection complete. They're looking for key cards. And I guess it kind of works with bundles as well, because sometimes these bundles come with variants for cards that you don't own, and then if you get that variant, then you will get the card in your collection as well. So,
Yeah.
While I do like the surprise factor a little bit, I think I'm more disappointed. I think a lot of other people will be not happy to see this, especially I think this is a horrible change for those players that are not collection complete, which is a lot of players, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
So,
and
yeah, kind of sad.
I've got the personal connection also associated to this. For those who don't know, I worked at SnapFan. I worked with Sank, and I worked with the whole team over there, Scott, and I've been there for patch day. I've been on the other end of trying to get that information out there, whether it be social media, whether it be writing the articles, posting it up. I get a rough idea of the chaos that they go under to get that information out to the public, because, that's a big portion of what their website traffic is. And obviously the same goes for Marvel Snap Zone as well. So being on the back end of a website that's trying to get information out to the community, they now know, knowing now that they are restricted in what information they're going to get, well, that's less traffic that comes to their website. It's less clicks to their website. So they personally are going to be affected by this. Now, granted, this is a very small pool of people, but they're people that I know directly and I've worked with personally. In regards to the community side, this is also an awful thing because Second Dinner has never been really, really good at trying to put information out there ahead of time about upcoming bundles because they've had blunders in the past about, oh, this bundle's coming later in the month, and then it drops and there's a 500 credit difference or a 500 gold difference between the due bundles versus the advertised one that was in game. And there's some discrepancies there. And then it causes a compensation issue that then has to go through the inbox. And then it's just extra work, which takes away from the production of the game rather than just let it load at certain moments. But what that does is it creates the FOMO. It's the player FOMO of fear of missing out on this bundle because it is a limited time offer. So I understand from the business aspect of what Second Dinner is doing on that aspect, where they're trying to make sure that they procure the traffic of their resources by getting people to spend money because, oh, this is only a $15 bundle, but it's available for the next, 3 days. I have 3 days to decide if I want this. That's it. Versus you knew about that bundle a month in advance. You compared it to all the other bundles, and maybe you didn't buy that one because the $10 bundle that you wanted instead was a better deal, but that's later and you knew about it. So I get the business aspect of what they're doing with the FOMO creation because it is monetarily helping Second Dinner, but at the same time, it really does damage the reputation with the community because the community is looking for those kinds of resources so they can try to be economically sound. And right now, the fire is out there and people are panicking because they don't know how to spend their resources. We can only now be reactive as a community once the bundles drop rather than proactive saying, here's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, that was perfectly put. I totally agree with everything you just said there. Yeah. It just makes sense in a business, like from a business perspective, but yeah, it's gonna hurt everybody else pretty much. Like everybody, it doesn't really help anybody else. Everybody else, like including the Snap fan, the Snap fan employees there. So
Yeah.
just not great news. The only silver lining, like I said, is like surprise, like, hey, here's a new bundle. Like, wow, I did not expect this variant to be in the game. Wow, like this is awesome. But
Well, but here's the problem though. That's the worst part is that we know just enough. Like we know that certain variants are going to come as a gold release. They can see when a variant gets uploaded into the game. They put it up there that, hey, this is coming at some point, and here's how it will come. So we'll know it'll come in a bundle, or it'll be 1,200 gold, or it'll be 700 gold. But we won't know what that bundle is. So it could be a $4.99 bundle that has 700 credits, or it could be a $49.99 bundle with 6,000 tokens. We have no idea nowadays. So we can't tell you as a community, here's the best bundle for you to buy right now, this month, in 3 weeks' time. Now we can all just say, oh, look what dropped. All right, let's put it in our little calculator. This is the bundle rate. This is this is worth it. Or not. And that never feels good when you're a free-to-play player, when you're I shouldn't say free-to-play, but when you're a low spender in the game, when you're someone that isn't really looking to do more than maybe the season pass. Maybe you get one bundle every now and then because it's a really great deal in particular, and it's only $10, it's only $15. But if you can't compare it, you might not get it anymore because you're always not just having the fear of missing out, but you're now having the fear of cutting out what could be better, so you just don't get anything.
Yeah, totally agree. But I mean, at the very least, at least any bundle should just be inherently good value. Like you should get it should be better than regular value. So if you buy a bundle in general, like you should get your quote unquote money's worth. Usually you get like if it's a bundle that contains a variant, you usually get your money's worth if you like the variant. Like if it's something that you would spend gold on, like you're typically it's called a bundle for a reason. And like it's the same way with like the season pass. Like you're gonna get your value back for buying it. Comparatively, like if you were to just buy like gold from the store or something like that. Typically, unless you have the double gold thing, but I mean, I'm sure, like you said, like I'm sure the websites like SnapFan are still going to let you know, like this is like when it comes out now, like this is good value, like they put into their calculator, and then like compared to like these other bundles, like this is you get like this percentage, this is like the percentage of gold to credit ratio, whatever it is.
Right.
So you're still gonna be able to see that, but not being able to prepare ahead of time does suck. And yeah, I'm sure I've already seen some people be very upset about it. And like for me as a collection complete player, I don't really care that much. But I do care for the people that are not collection complete, like I said before, which is a lot of players. Not a lot of people can afford to spend what content creators like myself like spend on this game. And like I can only afford to spend it because I'm making money on the content that I create for the game. If it wasn't for
Right.
that, I would never be spending the amount that I spend. Like it's basically like pay for content kind of thing. So yeah, it's pretty concerning for the for like the rapport of like Second Dinner and the of Marvel Snap. So not what you want to hear.
I'm going to
But
throw one
yeah.
thing at you, though. I'm going to throw one thing at you. And this is a thought I had earlier today, trying to understand this more than anything else, because I can understand the business aspect of FOMO. However, I wonder if there's a portion of this that also has to deal with the transfer over out of Newverse, since Newverse is slowly leaving as the publisher of Marvel Snap, and then it's moving into, I forget the name of the new company that absorbed it for
Mhm.
for the $100 million investment into Second Dinner. And the name's they're gonna let us know in the comments. I just the name is eluding me right now,
I
but
can't remember.
I wonder if there's a portion of it that also has to do with that, not in the sense of money, in the sense of like we don't want to give too much to our publisher. I don't think Second Dinner's in that business, but maybe there's a connection involved in regards to that some way with that they're not putting certain information in because they're trying to prepare those systems at the same time, maybe with the new publishing company. I don't know. Something tells me that there's more to it than just what we've already talked about. I would not be surprised if there was something to do with the publisher on the back end in regards to this, which is why we can't get certain information anymore because they're going through this transfer process. You know, it's like when you file for divorce, right? It's no longer you can both live in the same house necessarily. Somebody has to go over here, and then you have to have, you know, relegated visits, and other people get involved, and not full access to all of your lives like you had every day beforehand before the divorce. That very much so could be the case right now for Second Dinner, going in between the two different publishers too. So I just want to throw that out there into the world. I don't know that for a fact, but I would not be surprised if something like that was like that on the back end. And speaking of which, on the back end, we were all looking for one other thing in this whole entire patch because we knew it was coming in on the back end, because the devs confirmed for us that it was coming in on the back end, but then it did not come in on the back end. And that's Elsa Bloodstone. We knew, because they've said it now, I think a couple of times via the team answers, that Elsa is going to be getting a rework. But Elsa did not. She received no rework because we all just expected it to be this week, you know, this specific patch. And then they had to come through and say, no, we said a rework, just not this one. Like, come on, really? Like,
I mean, to be fair, we
frustrating.
did see. To be fair, we did see like two new cards drop and a few pretty important
I
changes.
want it
So
all. I don't
yeah, well,
care.
and that's also like one of the problems with like data mines in general is that people get hyped up for things, and if they don't deliver exactly what people are looking for, like then they're going to get outraged. So it's very hard to win. It's very hard to win a Second Dinner.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I'm sure we'll get that change eventually. I mean, there's other changes that I want to, but maybe we'll get into that a little later into the podcast.
Wait.
Um,
What do you think her change is
oh,
going to be, though?
uh, I mean, that could be anything. I don't know. Did they say a rework? It's going to be reworked.
Change. I don't know if it's
They
numbers.
just
I
said
don't know if it's
change.
stats. I don't know if it's mechanics. I don't know what it is. But what if you're second dinner? What do you think they do to Elsa Bloodstone?
Uh, so now I haven't even played Elsa in a million years now.
Yeah,
So now Elsa is only for that location, right? It's the
correct.
last card that you play on that location, as opposed to what it was where it was any location.
Correct.
Um, I
Her and Luke
mean,
Cage
they
went through
did.
the same thing.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Luke Cage just went through that,
There we go.
and then he just came back. So Elsa, I could see totally going back to that, but staying at this like +2 that she's at now, maybe.
I've been sitting on it too, and I think they've learned a very valuable lesson from the Luke Cage experience in particular, that these AoE effects could have a place in some way, shape, or form. So I think there's two directions that they could go with this, honestly. Either way, I think it depends on how they curve out in their testing. So version 1 is actually to leave the same stats entirely with the +2 as a 2/3, but add on the condition the first time you play a card that
Mhm.
fills this location, give it +2 power. So you could do it once in each location in particular. Or you go a different route and you leave her as the +2, give her the AoE like she used to have on any lane at any given time, but you have to make her a 3 cost, maybe even a 4 cost at like a 4/5, because her effect really could be good towards the end of the game also. Because as a 4/5, you fill one lane and it gives +2. She's now giving you 4/7 value, which is above rate. So I could see something like that also happening, which would be really exciting for certain Zabu decks. But I like more so the idea of the first time you play a card that fills this location. And the reason I lean more to that is because I think we were supposed to get Elsa's rework this patch in particular. I really do. As much as they say, oh, it's just a patch. We didn't say that. No. I think it was supposed to be this patch. But I think they're having issues with the first time a card fills this location because of things like tokens. You know, you have your Mr. Sinisters that come on down, you get rocks that get thrown on in, Doom bots, etc. And it's probably throwing it off in some way, shape, or form, even though that's already a part of her mechanic. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that was happening and it caused a delay, but that's the rework I'm leaning towards, is that she stays on the exact same numbers, the exact same stats, but it's only the first time you play a card that fills a location, give it +2 power.
Yeah, I mean anything's possible, but I mean also uh it depends on like what they really want to like work with Elsa, I guess. Like Kitty Pride has Kitty Pride was amazing with Elsa in the
Mhm.
past, and now uh yeah, Kitty Pride is just an unplayable card. It's been an unplayable card for a while now.
Yeah,
So
it's tough
I
to get her.
don't know if they would make that change to make it only the first time because maybe they want Kitty Pride to come back without changing it or something. I don't know. They could do anything to it. They could totally make it cost 3 like Luke Cage and change the numbers around with that, and just like revert it a little bit. Yeah, something where I would have to assume at the very least it's going to be affecting all of the lanes, all the locations.
Yeah.
And then exactly like what do they want to do with that? Do they want to go back to +3? I don't know. I mean, the game has evolved a lot since
That's risky.
the Elsa
Yeah.
change. So yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, maybe you can make it +3 if you make it a 4 cost like you were saying, or a 3 cost. I'm not sure, but yeah, well, let's see. But I guess you can expect that in the near future, maybe next week. I don't know. They
Love
just
it
said
next
a
week.
patch. So.
Otherwise, it'll be a whole nother patch either way. But let's move on though. Let's take a look at what we've gotten this past week when it comes to the new stuff, because it was what we were most excited about last week, because there's so much content, right? we got the season pass finally. We got Black Swan. We got to put her out there, and we saw the whole change of her going from a 2-3 Datamine to a 3-5, which was really frustrating because I personally had made a whole bunch of content already on the 2-3 version, including this podcast on the Thursday night beforehand. And then we found out on the Friday. It's like, had to update all the thumbnails. It was like, son of a, like, we couldn't win. But I was like, okay, we're going to get a 3-5, right? No big deal. We're going to get a 3-5, no issues. Or so we thought. But that was apparently attached to the patch in some way also. So she drops into the game on season reset and she's still a 2-3. And did you try her at a 2-3 at all before they eventually switched her?
I didn't even know she dropped as a 2-3.
Oh, yeah.
I logged in the day afterwards, actually.
Oh, so. Okay. No. She dropped in the game for about, I want to say it was either an hour or two at most. She was a 2-3. And it was really fun to see the difference because I threw her into bounce right away, started testing her. So you got to remember, this is now 2-3 Black Swan with 3-4 Beast going on. And I got to try that mechanic out for a little while and then try the same deck later on, but with the reworked versions of 2-2 Beast and now 3-5 Black Swan. And honestly, they cancel each other out. It's the same exact thing. You just have to reorder how you go through it. And then putting her into other decks further from that, she's doing very well for a season pass, but not breaking the game like Loki did, for example, or Zabu when he first came out in his first iteration. Like, they want the season pass to be a good card to be a part of your collection. And the stats aren't lying right now. She's got a 0.5 on the cubes. She's got a 55% win rate. She's got about a 7% popularity at the moment, which is a pretty, good rate for a first week release in general, yet alone the season pass. So people are trying her in a variety of different decks. I have thoroughly enjoyed Black Swan because you don't expect her to be good until one mana cheat comes out. That's all you need for her to do. It's like a hidden Psylocke into a stronger card. One mana cheat is all you need, and then she's got her value. Like that. Done. But get more of it with like a Thanos or a Zoo. Man, she's been a lot of fun. Not game-breaking, but fun. Definitely.
Yeah, Black Swan seems good. Even at a 3-5. Yeah, I was very surprised when I loaded up the game the day after supposedly the patch had dropped. To see that she was a 3-5, I was like, wait, did we talk about that as a 3-5 last week? And I just rolled with it. And along with the beast change, like you said, I would think that as long as one of them is 3 and one of them is 2, that it should actually pretty much balance out. And like I was saying before, beast on turn 4 into the Black Swan on turn 5 when you Falcon and stuff, it's still very strong. As a 3-5, like it doesn't really matter too much. It does. It doesn't let you play one more, like one cost from your hand and then bounce it all, but still works very well. The last turn is always explosive, and it's not only bounce. It's also like I was seeing. I think Dexter was playing with a like a strong guy list yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
That was running like Dracula and the Infinite package and stuff like that.
Nice. And
just like dumping the hand on the last turn along with Dracula, and it seemed pretty decent. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential, and it's very hard. Like we were saying last week, like it's very hard to plan around that last turn. When you see your opponent drop a Black Swan, like anything could really happen. Like they could drop their whole entire hand. They could just like completely ignore one location, just go for 2 locations. Maybe they don't have anything. Maybe they don't drop like anything. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like anything could happen. It's so hard to stay in the game against that, but you always want to see it play out. You got to see what the explosive turn looks like. So, and it's a lot of fun to play. I still feel like it's probably doing pretty well on the stats, but I still feel like there's a lot of room to explore with the card.
Agreed.
I still want to see somebody do Moon Girl stuff. I'm gonna try it myself at some point, but. Yeah, pretty happy with the card, and like you said, it's not like severely overpowered like Loki or even like Miss Marvel. So pretty happy with the pretty happy with the card so far. And then we also get Supergiant into the game. We have Supergiant added, which we talked about last week on the podcast as well. And I haven't played with it, but I played against it a bit, and we were talking about it a little bit before. And I'm gonna have to hear if Guest has tried his Eliath thing out. I've seen some Eliaths against me, and it seemed okay. It actually didn't seem like so great. It depends. Yeah, because you still get the effects off, like the Eliath. So if you played Eliath, if you played the Eliath on the last turn, and then you had played, so after the Supergiant comes down, then you play like Absman or something like that. And then if you play the Eliath on the last turn, then the Eliath goes off and it hits whatever, but then your opponent still gets the reveals on the other cards that they played on the other locations for that final turn. So they still do get some of their cards to go off, but not everything. So like I was still, as a bounce player, like I was still able to get like my Falcon off and like whatever I played on the last turn on those other locations, and then it went off and killed whatever. So like it seems pretty good, not like overwhelmingly toxic, but it does just seem like a solid tech card overall that can mess up your opponent, could also mess yourself up. But yeah.
This is going to be. I have titles going on right now of this is the best card of February. And I mean that mainly because I know I'm a collection complete player. I know I'm able to keep up with relevant metas because I can build any deck right now. However, I also am confident in saying that this card is not mandatory. It's not a card that everybody absolutely needs to have. Just because it's the best card of the month doesn't mean it's a card you actually need to have, though. Because you might be a discard player, you might be a Thanos player, but you don't have to have Supergiant to play either of those archetypes. Therefore, if you're not going to be playing a tech deck, or you're not going to be playing a certain variation on an Eliath deck, she isn't necessary. However, when you do use her in a Sarah tech, or you do use her in an Eliath build that focuses on early priority with some bigger cards like your Martyrs and your Gladiators and cards of that nature, it is a very strong card. It is a very strong card because it's going to be that constant valve for the game where all of a sudden we start seeing all these combo decks come into play. Jane Foster's coming back a little too much. People start running Supergiant again. Leech is coming back a little bit too much. Everybody starts running Supergiant again. This is one of those, look, I'm seeing too much of this. It's time for me to do a Supergiant deck type cards. We're going to see those regularly. It's just like whenever Galactus all of a sudden gets big, then you start seeing go wide decks go larger again, or you see Thanos go off again, which then means, okay, we're seeing Thanos again. We're going to get more Killmongers. Therefore, now we're looking at more Kyr. It's just the circle of snap is how we should really look at what Supergiant is. She's filling a gap of what we didn't have before, which is stopping turn 5 outside of ramping out Sandman. Now you can completely negate it. So in regards to her actual like play, it is a little tricky. It's very effective, but it's a little tricky. So I don't want the community to feel like you absolutely need to have this card no matter what, because it's the equivalent of a big bad. It's not to that revere. It is a very strong card that if you have the ability to get it and you want to keep up in certain metas, or really for like good hot locations even, this is a great card for that. Just be ready for that in particular, to know that you won't use her all the time, but when you do, you're going to love her.
Yeah, so a couple things I like about Supergiant is that, first off, it's not like an overly toxic card.
Yeah.
Like the effect itself, I think because it doesn't work on the turn that it comes down. I think that's why it's not toxic, because you give your opponent has a chance to react to it. Like their next turn, they can, like now that they saw the Supergiant comes down, like now they're obviously not going to play their Sarah or their Leech, but now they have to change their game plan around it. And they could still totally win with a different game plan, I'm sure. They just have to change the way that they play. And I also like that Supergiant is a tech card, but it's not like it still benefits your deck depending on how you build your deck. So it's not like It's not like a card like Cosmo or Enchantress where like you can only play it at this certain point, like when your opponent is going to play a reveal card or when they played an ongoing card. Like
Right.
this is a card that you could play whenever, and then if you built your deck around it, or even if you haven't, like you could still then develop your game plan, and just like change the way you play as well. So I think it's just a overall good card. It doesn't have like very bad stats at all either. So yeah, and it's not that toxic, like I said.
Yeah, it's an annoying card, but not one that will make you throw your phone. It will lead to that card, but it is not that card
Yeah, I was gonna
in
say
and
for the
of
most
itself.
part, yeah.
But I've been enjoying her. I think she's a fun 4 cost, and we're always looking for unique 4 costs in some way, shape, or form. And we have another one next week coming to the game. And the more I sit with this card, the more I get upset. I get super excited about it because I started theory crafting some decks today to get ready for the content. By the time this podcast goes out on Friday, the Cull Obsidian video will be out there. I am most excited for the last deck in that video. I won't say it here. I'll let you all enjoy the video. But basically, Cull Obsidian is the card coming out on Tuesday. And it's surprisingly good because, yes, you think 410 stats. Okay, that's obviously going to be good. You can only play this where you have a 1-cost card. Okay, you have a condition that you have to work around. Is it too strong, though? I'm actually not sure if it's too strong or if it's not strong enough in a very weird way. Because I feel comfortable playing this card knowing that I'm building my deck around it. You can't just plop it into a deck. You can't just do that. Obviously, you have to play into those mechanics. So this is a core card you build a deck around with an archetype. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, Cull Obsidian is a 410, and you can only play them where you have a 1-cost card. And so immediately, like Zabu makes this a 3, and Zabu is like the most powerful card in the game. They need to change it eventually, but yeah. So this card is going to be good with Zabu, but yeah, you need to have a 1-cost. And I kind of compare this card to like Crossbones in a sense, because Crossbones has a condition and it's a 4/8. It's an oversetted 4-drop. This has a condition, and it's an easier condition to pull off, and it's bigger. But on the downside, it is Shang-Chiable. So it does have a little drawback to it there. But if your opponent is using Shang-Chi on your 4-cost or 3-cost, then maybe you're happy with that. So yeah, in that case, I think that this card, yeah, I also think this card is good. It also does help with reducing Scar, so maybe Scar becomes more playable. It's another activator for that. I think it's a solid card. Yeah, I don't know exactly which deck it goes into. Probably some kind of Scar deck, but
Yeah, I mean,
seems solid to me. Yeah.
It's very obviously Black Order. It's gearing towards Thanos. That's what it's supposed to be for more than anything else. But there's a lot of secondary synergies that will allow this card to thrive. Scar is definitely one of them. Even the season pass, Black Swan, getting a free 1-drop down. You can really have fun with Cull Obsidian doing that, knowing that you can stage at the same time also. So that's a big deal where you can play it even on curve. You don't even have to ramp it out because you didn't get your 1-drop in time or you didn't get your Zabu. It's okay. You have time. You can stage it at the same time as a 1-cost and you'll be okay. It's still really insanely good stats.
Can you play it? Do you have to have the 1-cost actually on the like revealed yet, or you can play it on the? Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
we
that's
have
better.
that confirmed. So it could be turn 5. Now you've got me quoting my own video. On turn 5, on curve, you could play Iceman plus Cull Obsidian as the first cards in that lane, as long as the Iceman goes down first. That's all that matters. So it doesn't have to be revealed. It just has to be at least staged.
Okay. Yeah. Seems pretty good to me.
Yeah. He's going to be fun. He's going to be really, really fun. we're going to see some big stats. So you think you see a good meta share of Shang-Chi right now? Just wait. We're getting a 410 that's too easy to put out.
Yeah, Shang-Chi is always going to be popping something. But like I said, if you're using a Shang-Chi on this card that I spent 3 energy for, I'm pretty happy about that. Like the other, like then I'm feeling pretty good about the rest of my game there, I would think. So yeah, we'll have to see what this card seems solid, but yeah, they just keep releasing these so many 4-cost characters here, so many 4 costs, and Zabu, I feel like we could do a whole episode about Zabu. Like, I don't know, that card needs to be like they either need to rework that in my opinion or make it a 2-0. Like it has to, it's too good. It's the best card in the game.
That'd be fair. I mean, at this point, because yeah, exactly like you're saying, there are so many good 4 costs now that are coming and have come to the game in the last few months in particular. Like, yeah, Zabu, I could see Zabu not necessarily getting a rework, but I could see them justifying a 2-0 as going as low as that, even though that would feel really bad. Knowing all of the cards you're ramping out in particular, I think you could you're not winning a lane because of Zabu normally. You're winning a lane because of what Zabu gets you on turn 3 or turn 6 in particular. Is he like the number 1 target for you on like your own personal rework list?
Well, not even like rework list, but like change list. Yeah, like he needs to be changed. Like I just think he's the strongest card in the game by far. Like you just put him in every single deck. Like every deck starts off with me putting in like Zabu and like Shang-Chi pretty much. Like Zabu and like 3-4 drops, and then now we'll make the rest of the deck. Like it always feels like it's very necessary.
Sadly, I'll agree with you because as you're building a deck, once you get to that second 4-cost card in your hand, that's when you start going.
Use a 3rd one, and then a 2, and then Zabu.
Okay, maybe we could throw in a Zabu. Sure, it makes sense. You know, you start you sell yourself on the idea that you have to have Zabu, and then because you have Zabu, okay, well, I guess I can throw in another 4-cost, and it just snowballs from that end because it's such an easy card to adjust. You know, for them right now, they just drop a couple of stats off it, let it continue to do its thing. Though I hope they don't rework it. Is there any?
It's a bit difficult to rework. If I was going to rework it, it would maybe be something like the next 4 cost, like the next 4 cost that you play is reduced by 1 or something. Like it would be so bad. I don't know. I don't know how else you really like rework it without completely like I'm sure they don't want to change it interacting with 4 costs in general. So
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's still what the original version of the deck is supposed to be. It's supposed to be helping Khazar and what was originally the OG version of Shana. It was supposed to be reducing them down from their 4 costs down to 3 costs. Now Shana's already been brought down, so maybe Zabu gets a little bit of a slight mood change, but honestly, given his cornerstone-ness still currently, I don't think they're willing to change him yet. But if they do, I think that they end up just at that point then dropping him down to Series 3. So just get ready for that.
Yep. Yeah, hopefully soon. I don't know. Maybe they'll do it before Elsa gets changed. We'll have to see. But
I don't know about that. Well, here, let me throw you a question. Like, just kind of spinning off of that just for a hot second as we go into wrap. But like, are there any cards that, you know, we just had within 5 days, we had an OTA and a patch, both hit. Are there any cards that really stand out to you as like 911 or I desperately would love to see blank still get a change, whether it's a number, whether it's an effect, whatever it is? Is there any card besides Zabu, who we all know is on your list now?
I was going to say Zabu again. Yeah.
I know. I'm taking it away from you. Is there any 911 card that you'd be like, seriously, this needs love? This needs love.
It needs love, or it needs the opposite of
Nerf,
love.
buff, we'll just call it love.
I mean, even though I haven't played against it in a little while, I'm just always gonna say Loki. But
Mhm.
that's just because it's toxic.
Yeah.
But other than that, I feel like honestly, like there's nothing that comes to mind specifically. Like there's some outliers in power, but I don't know. It seems like a very so far. It seems like a very diverse meta game with this new season. And I'm sure, like we were talking about it before, like we got 2 new cards and we got 3 reworks at once. So like
Yeah.
people were expecting to play to make these decks with Supergiant and with Black Swan, but nobody was expecting to be able to make all these other decks. And like now Bounce can do a different kind of thing here. Now Ongoing gets a little bit of love with the Omega Red thing. Helicarrier out of nowhere, like Collectors now getting a little love there. So I feel like we still have some time to like settle the meta game, especially with the delay in the patch too. So,
Mhm.
as far as I could see, I mean, it looks diverse. It looks pretty fun at the moment. The game, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with most of it. There's just like these some cards like Zabu that are very like auto put into your deck and just like call it a day. And that's the only problem. And you never want these cards. Like that's why they changed America Chavez in the first place, is because it's just a card that you're going to put into every single to like a lot of decks, and it's just going to make them more consistent. And that's exactly what Zabu is.
Yeah. I'll agree with you there that it's if it's that automatic, it should be on your radar. So I don't know if that's a staple though in regards to trying to figure out the deck building strategy, or because the meta is so wide, or is that a strategy of this card is too powerful? So then if the meta is so wide because of X amount of cards, do you nerf the card? Do you kind of do what they did to Shuri originally, which is nerf the cards around it? Or do you really have to target the very specific, core card itself? So in this
Oh,
case,
you just brought up a buzzword for me.
core card.
Shuri.
Well, Shuri. There you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
another
Shuri.
fun
Okay,
four.
I take it
But
back. I
she
take it
doesn't
back.
benefit from.
Shuri and Black Knight. Those are the cards.
Ooh,
That's yeah. I think those. I think I talked about Black Knight last week as well.
I think so.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I always talk about him. I want those 2 cards to be changed. I don't like those cards.
Okay.
I think those are too powerful and very easy to pull off. But that's it.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair. I'm gonna spin you a different thought though, and go a completely opposite direction for a half a second. I've got 2 things I'll throw at you that are not nerfs, but I think they just need to be mechanic buffs. So this is not, these are not just like straight up number changes. I think that one of the cards that absolutely needs love is Kang, because he's a big bad that literally no one plays. And he's locked behind 6,000 tokens, and they can't figure out what to do with him because he's just an absolute literal waste of time in every pun and reality version of that phrase. So, how do you make Kang have this time mechanic in some way, shape? I'll get to you. I see your hand raised, in some way, shape, or form. So, I'm going to spin a different direction of how to use Kang. My idea is to make him a 2/0. Skip the next turn, cannot be played after turn 4, then start your next turn without Kang, just like you do currently. So instead of making the game longer, you make the game shorter. Now, if you get him down, you have a 58% chance on any given game to draw him, because you have 7 card draws before turn 4. Sorry, 8 card draws before turn 4. So that's 66% chance to get it out there in time. I think that makes it a lot of fun to say, oh, remember that turn 5 you were about to have? Skip, because you played it down on turn 4, and here we are now at the final turn 6, with full 6 mana. So I think that it creates a nice, blip in Marvel Snap, and helps the game because you get more games in because the games are shorter.
That sounds so toxic. Yes. Oh my god. You're gonna skip a whole entire turn. You want to? People already complain about not being able to have their cards flipped. They don't even play them in the first place now. What?
But
That is a
it's only
crazy
affecting turns
rework.
3, 4, and 5 because you have to play it down on 2, 3, or 4. You only have 3 turn window that you can actually play him down on.
That is like, that's a big deal. I don't know. I mean, you go -1. You do go -1 card by playing it, but I mean, that's a huge change. I don't know. I would have to take some time to think about that because it's wow. That did come out. That was a spicy one for sure.
What do you have? You had your hand raised. What would you do?
I mean, my change was going to be making him a 4 cost with the same ability like that he has.
Really?
Currently. Yeah, I think that I actually made. I had said that in a video that I made like 2 months ago, 3 months ago. It just gives you an extra turn to play him and to utilize his effect by like getting like a bluff snap in if you want, or it gives you also another turn to like play him when you draw him, because that's like the best turn to play him, because then you don't lose out on the card, so you basically thin your deck out. So it just makes him a little more versatile, and it gives him that extra chance to not lose out on value and to get that extra snap, like to get that snap in at a maybe more opportune time for that like bluff kind of thing. And I think that would help him out a lot. I don't know. Yeah,
That's fair. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm a Kang believer. I like Kang overall, but
I
yeah,
like Kang
F5
too.
is too much. Yeah.
I like Kang too. I think he could be a really fun card mechanic, but he at the moment he just absolutely sucks, to say the least. The second one I'll give you, and I'll shoot this one fast at you, is Captain America. Not just giving him a number stat. I think he's such a legendary character that he needs something a little bit spicier than just what he does, which is being like the reverse Punisher, right? So as a bounce player, I throw this to you, my friend. Captain America, 3/3. He currently gives the +1 to others in his location. Keep the same effect up to that point, but then you add another new condition. If you providing, I don't know how you would word this to keep it short, but if you're providing 3 buffs, so the lane is full, essentially, it summons a new token to the field, Captain America's Shield, who's a 1/1 who does the exact same thing. So all you have to do is fill the lane with Captain America, because you're playing him down on turn 3. Fill the lane with Captain America. Captain Shield comes on out, lands randomly on your side of the battlefield, and now it's basically somewhere in between Ant-Man and Captain America, because it's a 1/1 giving +1s to the other spots at that location.
Sounds OP, not gonna lie. Like especially in like a zoo kind of deck, like if you just put like Jeff in there, then you can like move him out, or like Nightcrawler as well. So like you don't really care if you fill it up, and like you can fill it up pretty easily. So you'd have to take a stat hit, I'm sure, like Captain America himself. I don't hate it. It's just, yeah, if you do the number, if you adjust his numbers, then maybe. But these are definitely some obscure changes here. Yeah.
Well, they're obscure cards. They're cards that nobody's playing. So
That's
it's not
true.
like you can even use it as a point of reference of, okay, this is how I normally use Cap. No, because you don't normally use Cap. Nobody uses Cap. I tried figuring out a hybrid variation of Cerebro 3 using Captain America with all these other 2 buffs, with Forge, which you would hit onto Cerebro and play it in that lane, and then it gets the buff. And I tried all that. It's just not a card worth playing. Just put Gladiator and shut up. Like he needs something better because it's Captain America. He's a cornerstone piece, just like how we all preached about Cyclops is such a cornerstone piece to X-Men lore. Why is he so absolute garbage in Marvel Snap? I think Captain America is very much so on that exact same train for Marvel, especially given the recent MCU over the last 2 decades. So I think he needs that kind of love. Not as badly as Kang does, but I think he needs something spicier than what he has.
I do agree with that. Yeah, he needs some love. And yeah, I don't think it would be exciting if he just gets like +1 or something. So yeah, I think he could use a change. Captain America is one of those cards that you maybe play at like the beginning of the game, like when you're just
Yeah.
getting started with Marvel Snap, and he's just like okay, he's not even that great. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it would be nice to see a change for that card, but overall, I think there's not many. Like you had asked me before the podcast, like what cards like I would be looking to change, like in each like mana slot, energy slot, and it was actually kind of difficult to come up with some of those slots because like there's actually quite a bit of playable cards in the game at the moment. Like that, I think they are doing a good job of balancing these cards
Agreed.
eventually. Um, just some cards are taking more time than others, but I feel like we will get to a Captain America change. We'll get to a maybe a Quicksilver change. One of these days.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think. But overall, pretty happy with the choices that we got in the game. And hey, we'll have to see. We'll have to see next week on the Beyond Infinite podcast. You'll have to tune in to see what we're talking about next week. Maybe we'll get a big change. Maybe we'll get a big patch. Um, who knows? There's no more data mines. We don't even know about anything anymore.
What do we know? We're just content creators.
Yeah.
We're just here clicking cubes, making fun effects on streams and YouTube videos, and just saying, "Hey, look, things are fun." Right? That's all we're supposed to do is just have fun with the game and no longer give you insider information because they won't let us have access to it on the fun websites. But it is what it is.
It is what it is. And this was the Beyond Infinite podcast, episode number 4. Thank you for tuning in. It has been a pleasure. It's been your boy D Money, along with Mr.
It's guest gaming. That's me.
That's him. All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Peace out.
Bye, everybody.